Look at this painting. Not at the drama, not at the gestures. Look at the basket of fruit sitting at the edge of the table. That basket has been sitting there for over 400 years. Millions of people have walked past it. Art historians have written about this painting for centuries. And yet, only a few years ago, someone noticed something hidden inside it. A symbol so deliberate, so precisely constructed, that it changes everything you thought you understood about what Caravaggio was doing. The painting is called The Supper at Emmaus. Caravaggio painted it at just 30 years old. Today it hangs at the National Gallery in London. And before we get to what is hidden in that basket, you need to understand why the moment it captures is so psychologically unsettling. The scene comes from the Gospel of Luke. 3 men sit down for a simple meal at a roadside inn, unremarkable, ordinary, and then one of them reveals himself to be the risen Christ. The 2 disciples had walked with him for hours. They had talked with him along the road. They had looked directly at his face, and they had not recognized him. Caravaggio does not paint the miracle. He paints the second after, the exact moment when the eyes of those 2 men open wide, and they see what was in front of them all along. That is the question the entire painting is built around, not what they saw, but why it took so long for them to see it. Now look at how Caravaggio handles light. There is no natural light source visible anywhere. A 17th century art writer named Giovanni Pietro Bellori described how Caravaggio would place his figures in the darkness of a closed room, then pour light down over them from somewhere above, somewhere we cannot locate. The result is that every face, every hand, every object that matters emerges from pure blackness, as if God himself decided what deserves to exist. But here is what most people never notice about the composition. The front of the table is completely open. There is no barrier between the figures and you. Caravaggio left a 4th seat empty, facing the viewer. His intention was not for you to observe this scene from the outside. He wanted you to feel that you are already sitting at that table, watching the revelation happen in front of you. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If you had been there, would you have recognized him? Now look at Christ himself, and notice something strange. He has no beard. He is young, rosy-cheeked, almost feminine in his softness. This is deliberate. After the resurrection, according to the Gospel of Mark, Christ appeared to his disciples in another form, a transformed body, no longer identical to the one that was crucified. Caravaggio paints him as someone you would pass on the road without a second glance, an ordinary traveler. That is the horror underneath the beauty of this painting. The divine does not announce itself. It sits across from you and waits for you to notice. On the left, the disciple identified as Cleophas, Christ's paternal uncle, according to some sources, rises from his chair in something between shock and panic. His sharp elbows push through the worn fabric of his coat. On the right, Luke throws his arms wide open. And if you trace the shape of that gesture, the outstretched arms, the extended hands, it mirrors the exact silhouette of a cross. Whether Caravaggio put that there consciously, we cannot say for certain, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Behind Christ, a strange shadow falls against the wall. Some historians see in it the outline of another presence, something not visible in the room, but there nonetheless. Study that shadow yourself. Tell me in the comments what you see. And now the innkeeper. He stands behind the group. He hears the same words. He is in the same light, in the same room, breathing the same air. And he understands absolutely nothing of what is happening. He is the person who is present for a miracle, and completely blind to it. Caravaggio did not put him there by accident. He is the counterweight to everything else in the painting. He represents everyone who is standing close enough to see and still misses it. The difference between those who recognize and those who do not, that is the heart of this entire painting. And Caravaggio builds that theme into every corner of the canvas, including the basket. At the edge of the table, jutting out towards you using a trompe-l'oeil technique, a visual trick designed to make the basket appear to extend into your physical space, almost falling off the edge into the room where you are standing, sits a wicker basket full of fruit. The fruit inside is not a decoration. Each piece carries a specific meaning that any educated viewer in Caravaggio's era would have read immediately. The apple beginning to rot, the fall of man, the original sin. The grapes, the Eucharistic wine, the blood of Christ. The figs, the pomegranates, the quinces, all symbols of resurrection, fertility, and the cycle of death and renewal. But look more closely at the basket itself. Look at the weave of the wicker, the fraying threads at the rim. A loose twig sticks out of the pattern. That twig curves in one direction. Another element curves back against it in the opposite direction. Together, they form the unmistakable silhouette of a fish. That fish is the ichthys, the secret symbol of early Christianity. In the centuries of Roman persecution, when openly identifying yourself as a Christian could cost you your life, believers would greet strangers by drawing half of that curved fish shape in the dirt with their foot. If the stranger completed the curve, both knew they were safe. If not, nothing had happened. Caravaggio built that symbol into the physical weave of this basket. He illuminated one curve with light and left the other in shadow, precisely as those early Christians would trace only half of the symbol and wait. But there is more. Look at the shadow the basket casts on the white tablecloth. That shadow also takes the shape of a fish, a second hidden ichthys made entirely of darkness. And then look at the shadow cast by the pile of fruit to the right of the basket. A third, one symbol, hidden 3 times in the same corner of the same painting. Once in the object, once in the light, once in the shadow. This was not an accident. Caravaggio was making a theological argument without words. The sign of Christ is everywhere. In light, in darkness, in the ordinary objects of daily life, and whether you see it depends entirely on whether you are looking. 5 years after finishing this version, Caravaggio painted a second supper at Emmaus. It hangs today in Milan. In that version, the basket is gone, the trompe-l'oeil is gone, the empty seat facing you is gone, the shadows have thickened into something heavier, almost suffocating. The painting no longer reaches towards you, it turns away. In those 5 years, Caravaggio had fought a series of violent legal battles. He had killed a man in a brawl over a disputed game. He was living as a fugitive, moving from city to city under threat of death, his health and mind deteriorating. He would be dead by 1610 under circumstances that are still not entirely clear. Between one painting and the other, something shifted inside him. The first supper is an invitation. The second is a withdrawal, as if he had stopped believing that paintings could save anyone, including himself. What makes a genius is not just technical skill. It is the ability to embed meaning so deep inside a work that it waits, patiently, for 4 centuries until someone finally looks closely enough. The question Caravaggio leaves you with is not about religion. It is not even about art. It is something older and more personal than that. How much are you missing that is sitting directly in front of you? If this painting now means something different to you than it did 10 minutes ago, that means Caravaggio did exactly what he intended. Leave me in the comments. Did you know about the hidden ichthys before today? And what do you think Caravaggio meant by hiding it not once, but 3 times? I will be reading every answer. See you in the next video.